Could nobody hear me, man? I was on mute. My bad. My apologies. So, ETM Hotel, uh, Rennie, Sean, welcome in peace. My name is Sean. Thank everybody for tuning in today. We're going to get into a lesson of logical fallacies commonly used in the conscious community, preferably appealing to authority. And it's going to touch on a topic related to a conversation that has been centered around uh, the article that Kofi will be releasing following this presentation. So just give him a few minutes and he'll be actually dropping the article in the chat. So for any other young lookers or anyone interested in the work, Kofi will have it available. Before we get started, I do want to say, like the show, share the show, tell a friend, tell a friend. Uh, this will be a good opportunity to kind of to learn what we got going on, man. So hopefully, more people to tune in. If not, that's okay. Um, the information will be documented and put forward for everybody. So uh, hang tight for me one moment, and then we're gonna dive right into the whole conversation. Kofi, you got anything you want to say?
I just want to say ETM Hotel, Dua Aku, Dua Necha, Fatmu Alafie, Fatmo Iwa Pele, Majuba Iba Ie Gungun, Majuba Iba Ie Gungun, Majuba Iba Ie Lakba, Majuba Iba Ie Lakba. I always want to give honor and praise to the ancestors because without the ancestors, we wouldn't be here. We are our ancestors. I'll be dropping the article in just a few minutes. I had some technical difficulty a while ago with publishing my article, but I'll be providing the article, so y'all stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for this powerful bill by any Sean California.
All right, hold on just a second for me, real quick, Kofi. Um, Let me get my screen shared. All right, I think everybody can see my screen. All right, let's go. Let's go. So I'll try to be brief, but I don't like to take all day. So a lesson on a logical fallacy commonly used in the conscious community called appealing to authority. Um, let's get it in. The research questions that outline: what is appealing to authority? What are logical fallacies? Do we actually learn more by appealing to authority? Are there any beliefs of learning how to recognize logical fallacies? Based on the examples used, are there any fallacies being committed, especially in regards to appealing to authority? We'll have the conclusion and then the sources. So we have a few research questions. We'll answer a few more additional questions in the learning process. We'll define and we'll see how things go. So our aim and our objectives today will be our aim today is to educate ourselves on how to identify logical fallacies, in particular when someone is appealing to authority. We will review a few different personalities and see if any of them are actually appealing to authority or if they did appeal to authority. So here's my hypothesis. Over the past few years of observing YouTube videos, reading books, and even briefly reviewing articles, I began thinking that we have not been taught how to actually think scientifically, nor do the work necessarily required to overcome logical fallacies. I believe by appealing to authority, we actually become lazy in scholarship and hinder ourselves in our own advancements academically. I think technology has created this laziness, but also feel good rhetoric. Many people are afraid to advance beyond the work of our ancestors. Our ancestors have done in their time, and because of this laziness or fear, we have just accepted things the way they are. So, what is a logical fallacy? We'll take a look at different types of definitions for this. Here's one by academic guides. It's logical fallacies are errors of reasoning, specific ways in which arguments fall apart due to faulty connection making. While logical fallacies may be used intentionally in certain forms of persuasive writing, i.e., political speeches aimed at misleading an audience, fallacies tend to undermine the credibility of objective scholarly writing. Here's another example by thought.com. A logical fallacy is an error in reasoning that renders an argument invalid, also called a fallacy, an informal logical fallacy, an informal fallacy. In a broad sense, all logical fallacies are non-inquisitor arguments in which a conclusion doesn't follow logical from what preceded it. Now, another definition of what a logical fallacy is. Fallacies are fake or deceptive arguments, cognitions, that is, arguments that seem irrefutable but prove nothing. Fallacies often seem superficial sound, and they far too often retain immense persuasive power even after being clearly exposed as false. Like epidemics, fallacies sometimes burn through entire populations, often with the most tragic results before their power is diminished or lost. Fallacies are not always deliberate, but a good scholar's purpose is always to identify and unmask fallacies in arguments. What is appealing to authority? Appealing to authority is a common type of fallacy or an argument based on unsound logic. When writers or speakers use appeal to authority, they are claiming that something must be true because it is believed by someone who's said to be an authority on the subject, whether the person is actually an authority or not. The logic is unsound. Instead of presenting actual evidence, the argument just relies on the credibility of authority. Please remember this. Please remember this. There are many types of fallacies that people often use in philosophical argumentation. Fallacies are arguments that seem at the surface level to make sense, but are not actually based on logic. One example of such a fallacy is called an appeal to authority. This is when you try to make the case for something because someone with authority either does or endorses the action or idea. Another definition: an argument from authority, also called an appeal to authority or argumentum or verecundium, is a form of defensible argument in which a claim authority support is used as evidence for an argument's conclusion. It is well known as a fallacy, though some consider that it is used in a cognate form when all sides of discussions agree on the reliability of the authority in the given context. Other authors consider it as a fallacy to cite an authority on a discussed topic as the primary means of supporting an argument. Recognizing if a fallacy is being committed, specifically appealing to authority. Now, regarding the discussion on some claim to be a debate on the question whether if the meaning of the place name Kemet meant black people, black land, or otherwise, opposing views came together and discussed this topic based on available evidence compiled for and against the research question. In our next few slides, we will listen to a few examples of those who actually support the claim and see if a fallacy is being committed or not. This is the moment of clarity.
Say this as well. Sheikh Anta is a well-beloved ancestor, scholar, genius, scientist, and so on. He is actually, put it this way, if it wasn't for Dr. Sheikh Anta, a lot of us today who do this kind of research and work would not be doing this kind of research and work. So he is definitely one of our venerated and esteemed scholars. All right, he's a genius. He's a modern day genius. That being said, Diop himself says this. This is a quotation from an interview with Dr. Sheikh Anta. right? The reference you can see at the bottom. So I'm just going to quote him. He says, I would like to see, above all, a greater number of researchers, Afro-Americans, young Americans, even whites. Why not? Because it's the young who are the least prejudiced. As a consequence, they are the most capable of making triumph ideas which frighten the older generation. Also, I think that it would be necessary to put together a polyvalent scientific teams capable of doing in-depth studies for sure, and that's what's important. It bothers me when someone takes me on my word without developing a means of verifying what I say. We must form a scientific spirit capable of seeing even the weaknesses of our own proofs, of seeing the unfinished side of our work and committing ourselves to completing it. You understand? Therefore, we should then have a work which could honestly stand criticism, because what we've done, we would have been placed on a scientific plane. All right, so it's...
All right, so let's stop right there. Continue to move forward.
Get my screen to go to the next page. Asar Imhotep School of Thinking on this debate argues against Kemet being the black land and black people against Diapo, Banga, Bento, Cannon, Carruthers, Riquetti, and Fetishi, and a host of other scholars. He's also challenged the glyph and idea of Kim being black because he believes that they're incorrectly dependent on the root, which is Kim, which is black. And one of his points, he says, Diop assumed. I present the following slides of his. Ujao already showed it. This one is against Kemet being black and Kemet being black people's state country. He said on the slide, both hypotheses are incorrect for the following reasons. They ignore chronology and the earliest usage of the term, ignore the classifiers, determinatives written in the earliest forms. Both hypotheses fail to support the idea that the root of Kemet is Kem, which is black. That's from this slide. I don't have to check with him to see if he said that. He said that. Asar then challenged Diop on the following statement to set up his claim of faulty logic that he's claiming that Diop had. The Egyptians had one term to designate themselves, Kemet, equal to Negroes, literally. In the Egyptian language, a word of assembly is formed by an adjective or a noun by putting it in the feminine singular. Kemet from the adjective kem is equal black. It therefore means strictly Negroes or at the very least black men. The term is a collective noun which does describe the whole people of Pharaonic Egypt as a people. Diop very rarely, if any, wrote in English, though he was a linguist. There are lots of times where people are just transcribing his work from French, and they don't get the full idea of what Diop was saying and don't know how to question him. And that was the problem with civilization of barbarism, because Dr. Leonard Jeffries had first tried to translate that incredible word, but it was just too technical, too difficult. Yelenge Ngemi had a he was French speaking, so he had a better sense of what Diop was saying, but still, in some cases, he may have missed exactly what Diop was saying, and some things could have been explained a little better. First, let's see what Diop actually said. Asad said that Diop said this: the Egyptians have only one term to designate themselves, Kemet, equal to Negroes, literally. But Diop actually said this: the Egyptians had only one term to designate themselves, and now he gives the glyph, equal Kemet, the Negroes, literally. This is the strongest term existing in the Pharaonic tongue to indicate blackness. This word is the etymologic origin of the well-known root Kemet, which has proliferated in modern anthropological literature. The biblical root Cam is probably derived from it and has therefore been necessary to distort the facts to enable the root today to mean white. In Egyptological terms, whereas in the Pharaonic mother tongue, which gave it birth, it meant black. So Diop is saying at this point that Kem meant black. Saul would say that he's assuming that it meant black, but he is saying that it meant black. is remarkable circumstance that ancient Egyptians should never have had the idea of applying these qualifications to the Nubians and other populations of Africa to distinguish for themselves. The Egyptians used expression, they have to designate Nubians, and et cetera, et cetera. What I'm trying to do is show you what Diop actually said instead of taking a part from it. So why isolate the point? Diop's point was that Kemet was the people determinative was the strongest term to indicate themselves. Saying that, not assuming, but saying that Kem meant black. And there was no reason to take out this and the rest of the things that he took out. In the other quote, in Egyptian language, the word of assembly is born from an adjective or a noun and putting in the feminine singular. Kemet from the adjective kem equal black. It therefore means strictly Negroes or the very least black men, which I already read that. The term is collective noun, which thus describes all people of Pharaonic Egypt as black people. But Diop in the next paragraph said, in other words, on a purely grammatical plane, so that means he's cognizant of grammar. If one wishes to indicate Negroes in the Pharaonic tongue, one cannot use any other word than the very one which the Egyptians use for themselves. Therefore, the language offers us another term, which is Kemetu, the Negro, the black man literally, equals the Egyptians, as opposed to foreigners, which comes from the same root Kem, and which the Egyptians also used to describe themselves as a people distinguished from all foreign people. There are the only adjectives of nationality used by Egyptians to designate themselves, and both mean Negro or black in the Pharaonic language. Scholars hardly ever mention them, or when they do is to translate them by the euphemisms, such as Egyptian, while remaining completely silent about their etymological sense. They prefer the expression Rimet Kemet, the men of the country of the black men, or the men of the black country. So again, I believe that Asar and Hotep was cherry picking Diop's points. I'm going to show you more why. Diop is saying that Kemet and Kemetu are adjectives of nationality, both meaning black.
All right. So based on this long soliloquy that Reggie just put forward in his argument, in his initial argument, which I said initial argument, because this was the response after the dialogue that Brother Asar Imhotep and that other dude had on Asar's channel, when this initially was supposed to be a moderated discussion by a group of panelists who were linguists, were to weigh in on the topic, which we didn't get a name of any of the so-called said linguists who were honed in on the discussion at that time. However, in Brother Reggie's assessment of what is the meaning of the place name Kemet, he did not answer the question, nor did he demonstrate. Therefore, Reggie, by fault, appealed to authority based on someone else's hypothesis, not conclusion, based on the definition of what appealing to authority is. If you forgot what appealing to authority is, I would suggest that you rewind the video a little bit and go through the actual definitions of that, and we'll move forward. Next.
Hey, can the first slide come up? Title of my presentation is, we've spent a lot about what Kemet is, but the title of my presentation is Why Kemet? Insights into reconceptualizing national identity. Next slide. I'm going to dedicate this presentation to Sheikh Anta Diop. And next slide. And in the 1974 UNESCO Symposium, Sheikh Anta Diop actually gives credit to deciphering what the word Kemet means. He actually gives credit to another African. This other African, he says, is Susu and Sugan, who was to compile this part of the present chapter. So I give credit to this brother too. for this particular league. Next slide. At the UNESCO conference, just a brief review. At the UNESCO conference, we read the proceedings of the unabridged volume of the General History of Africa, Volume 2. There is a debate, many debates, but there is a debate around the word Kemet. But the main protagonist was a brother from the Sudan, Abdelgadir Abdallah. And Abdallah, I kind of feel like we're recreating the 1974 UNESCO conference. Because Abdallah said at that conference that the word Kim didn't mean black. And that was what started the whole tete-a-tete at the UNESCO symposium on the issue of Kemet. And so immediately after he said that, a French Egyptologist, Sir Sonoran, intervened. And Sir Sonoran intervened and said, no. Kim does mean black. And so Sir Sonoran and Jean Leclerc, their debates with Sheikh Anta Diop were over issues of race and culture, but not an issue of whether or not the word Kim meant black. Next slide. By way of conclusion, so if I don't complete my time, I'm going to give you my conclusions up front. Okay. By way of conclusion, the word Kemet refers to a novel ethno-geopolitical national marker of identity that was primarily forged in the cauldron of the internal contradictions and politics of what is referred as the first intermediate period. Novel in two fundamental ways. One, the innovation of a unitary concept of a nation, and two, the political need to more rigidly distinguish themselves as a nation of people, which is clearly shown in a new hyper-discourse around borders, Tosh, internally and externally, initially and principally directed against the people from Western Asia in the first intermediate period. Next slide. So, how do we know? So, Asar, gave some examples of my work, and I'm going to give some examples of your work. How do we know that Asar Imhotep means Osiris who comes in peace? How is it that we know that? We know that through a process of historical evolution within the Kemetic language, where Asar is Usire in Coptic. Which is to come, continues all the way to Coptic. Hotep is a word that continues from the beginning all the way to Coptic. Asar's method, unfortunately, is not a historical comparative method, it's an ahistorical comparative method. It's ahistorical in the sense that what Asar does is that he wants to bypass the historical evolution of the Egyptian language that ends in Coptic. And so because he does not feel that Coptic is a part of the Egyptian language, he feels it is a separate language. So what Asar does in his comparative method is that he goes into other areas and he doesn't go through Coptic, he goes around it. And that's where Obenga's method is the correct method. And the correct method is actually a free translation. Tep-Hesem means atop the county. How do we know that? Through Coptic. So, as a result, every time you bypass Coptic,
All right, so Dr. Beatty addresses the research question, what is the meaning of the place name Kemet? You did not get an answer from that. What you did get an answer on him is he also appealed to authority by saying that a SARS method was incorrect because he's saying his argument is because Obanga's method is correct. And Dr. Beatty is a student of Dr. Obanga. So that has some type of bias simulated to that, and it does not answer the research question if you listen to what I just played. Now, he also made some other fallacies, especially a straw man, because he made an argument out of a topic that we understand what is the research question, which is what is the meaning of the place name Kemet? It had nothing to do with, he said that Asar was bypassing Coptic, which Asar never did. He said Asar, basically Asar's argument is one saying that the Meta Nature has never been deciphered. That's ignorance. So we're going to continue to move forward. Now remember, we are based on the definitions of what appealing to authority is what we're getting at, because this is a common thing that we are being trained on. Earlier, I had mentioned something about Reggie's initial argument, and I'll come back to that later.
Now, some people saying Kemet don't mean black. Some people saying Kemet do mean black. Now that I got four of y'all scholars here, I would like for y'all to address that. Start with you, my brother. And then we all go with the brother. Kemet unquestionably means black. Unquestionably black. Doesn't mean wetland. But let me say this. Many words in Kemet in the Medu Neter has several meanings. Right. But the meanings that our ancestors used it was to empower us, and it was connected to the earth. It was connected to this blackness of the universe. And if we know that 95% of the universe is a state of blackness. Absolutely.
All right, so Infudigi addresses the research question, what is the meaning of the place name Kemet? As you can see, I continue to show you that Reggie in another chat was saying the presentation title is the origin and meaning of Kemet, but that it's what is the meaning of the place name Kemet? Infudigi does not address the research question. He says that 95% of the earth is black. He doesn't even deal with the whole anything, so we can dismiss anything that he says, but you know, hey, we're going to move forward.
Of course, we had a very vigorous debate on this issue at our ASCAT conference. And myself and Brother Reggie Mabry and Asari Imhotep and others also, Brother Sanjeti, respect their work. So we had a very vigorous debate on this issue. In some sense, it is complex, but I felt like we were rehearsing. I'll give you what Dr. Obinga said about this issue when I talked to him. And Dr. Obinga says that we're making noise for nothing. Those were his exact words. We're making noise for nothing because the question has already been answered. And I, think that this question has been answered by Sheikh Anta Diop, by Dr. Ben, and there is nothing that we can say above and beyond that, which is why in my presentation, their work stands. The only thing that I attempted to do in my presentation was to historically contextualize when it comes into being. And it comes into being hardcore in the cauldron of the first intermediate period. And it's a very unstable political period in Kemet. And it's understandable why it comes into being, a unified concept of a nation. Why it comes into being at that moment where before they did not have that. Quick question related to that.
All right. So Dr. Beatty addresses the research question again. The first thing that he actually does is he says what he basically reflects on a conversation that him and the great Theophilo Benga has had, which does not address the actual conversation, as he said that the reply from the great Theophilo Banga was, we're making a bunch of noise about anything, but that doesn't answer the question. So we still don't know the meaning. So Dr. Beatty continues to argue that there was turmoil and there was chaos, and this is when, you know, foreigners were coming in, but he doesn't give you a date. Well, he says first intermediate period, but he doesn't hone in on the specifics of what would be considered the first intermediate period. What if we're ignorant of what the first intermediate period is? We don't know. So again, he had an opportunity to actually demonstrate based on the information that he's seen at Aztec that was short-lived, and he could analyze the other information and kind of critique his response. Then he did not do that. He continued to omit whatever was presented to him at Aztec, and that was based on demonstrations, especially in the book that was written by the Shemsu Heru research team, and continue his position based on feeling. Let's go one more.
Quickly, I really want to say that when we look at Kemetic literature, we see that these ancient Africans in some ways were the world's first poets. I say that intentionally here with regard to our understanding of the word Kem in Kemet, whether it means black people or black land, which is really what the debate is. I want us to understand that Kemetic ideology is not fixed. In the poetry of Kemetic literature means that sometimes duality occurs. They've truly enjoyed the play on words. So for us to say, did they always mean the black people? Obviously not. Did they always not mean the black people? Obviously not. So for us to actually squabble over this to some degree means that we're slicing the onion so thin that it's no longer an onion. And that's the problem that I have. And so that's what we need to really discuss. I think that's what we have to do. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And I thought.
All right, so Jabari, the question is, the research question was, what is the meaning of the place name Kemet? You didn't answer the question, the research question, nor did you know the topic of the research question, and you avoided it when you made your response to Black News 102 and to the community, which relies on your information. This is one of linguistics. This argument is one of methodology. This argument is one of many hypotheses surround this this research question, and it behooves me that we have resulted to 95% of the earth being black. It behooves me when we start talking about Kemet, a place name meaning something that it didn't have anything to do with. It behooves me when we commit these logical fallacies by appealing to authority based on what information? Oh, Diop said, or Banga said. So as much as intellectual gods as we make them, modern day Imhoteps in our era, that does not mean that they're not subjected to committing, a mistake. It does not mean that they can't, commit a mistake, period. Like their work is perfect. There's little things and details, but hey, whatever. More power to you. Let's move on. Now, in order for the argument from authority to be considered logical fallacy, the argument must appeal to authority because of their qualifications and not because of their evidence in the argument. Moreover, the argument can be fallacious if the authority lacks actual qualifications in the field being discussed. Are there benefits to recognizing fallacies, especially when someone appeals to authority? According to the examples above, it would only make perfect sense to know and to understand when someone is appealing to authority. Knowing this immediately helps us draw out the problem and addresses the issue by demanding the arguer to demonstrate that which is being argued upon. But if we are unaware of these fallacies and just accept someone at their words, then we are enabling the problem further, and we will not even reach the solution of verifying if that information is actually factual or not. The Shemsu Heru research team took the advice of Diop and decided to answer the research question and respond scientifically but also scholarly. Until you have read the work on the subject matter, I suggest you mute the noise and take Dr. Diop's request seriously.
So, in science and the natural sciences, we discover truths by a process called the scientific method. And while, depending on what field of inquiry that you're involved in, the scientific method may take on various forms. But what I have in front of us is, kind of a good summary or standard in terms of what is meant by the scientific method. So the scientific method starts off by the asking of a question. Usually is from an observation that one has made in existence. And so it prompts one to ask a question. So then one does a background research because you may not be the first one to observe something in nature. And so you want to see first and foremost, has that question you asked already been answered? If it hasn't, then you construct your own hypothesis to answer the question of why or what, regarding your question, your research question. And so the hypothesis itself is not the answer. It is your answer, for that is to be tested. It is it's your answer that is to be tested. And so from there you test with experiments. And so you actually create a number of hypotheses. And your objective is to falsify the hypotheses. In science, you can't prove anything. And so keep this in mind. I have to remind everyone, you can never prove anything in science. Proof is of the domain of logic and mathematics, but not of science itself. So while you can't prove something is absolutely true, you can falsify hypotheses. You can shoot down when something isn't true. And so this is the basis of science in terms of testing. And so is the procedure working? Yes or no? Depending on that, you have different steps. So if it's no, troubleshoot procedure, carefully check all steps and retest. If yes, analyze the data and draw conclusions. Do the results align with the hypothesis? You communicate your results. If so, results align partially or not at all with the hypothesis. You go back and construct new hypotheses. You have to go back to the drawing board and conduct some more tests.
All right, so that was Brother Asar telling us exactly how the actual scientific method works. If you're very unfamiliar with that, then I would suggest you take the time to actually do science, because science does require you to know, and it requires you to do it. It's something that you do. So when someone says Diop said or Obanga said, and that's where it stops, and that is their source, then this lets you know that scientifically they did not go through and answer the question themselves. They relied on an authority to accept it at their face value. Whether they are right or wrong or indifferent in the conclusion. So Diop's original argument was a hypothesis. And earlier I had stated something about Brother Reggie in his initial argument when he appealed to authority. He did this a second time when he represented information on another channel. Remember, he went on the Amara Squad's channel first to present his counter argument after the discussion Asar had with the other guy. After Asar had the discussion with the other guy, Reggie's response was live on the Amara Squad, which they gave him the platform to do his presentation. Okay. This is when he began a 30-minute soliloquy of appealing to authority by naming all of these people who he sat at the feet of. And he did not present any of his initial work and as him being a scientist or as him knowing what methodology is, he didn't present that methodology in that initial argument. So he went back to the drawing board as he did a YouTube drive-by on other channels, trying to present his argument for his position and what he claims to be defending Dr. Diop. Well, and he had changed his position again. And then when we get to ASCAP, Reggie has a third premise, a new argument that he actually presented based on what he says. What he argues is that Kemet means the black cow, which is which is based on from his position some translations out of text in the Rani Kemet, which is the Egyptian spoken language, and he actually pulled from some sources, some mythical sources used to make that argument. Was cute, but he was put up on the Black Bull thing by members of the Amara Squad. So basically, he has appealed to authority on every level. Now, we can defend our great scholars on their work, but we also, in order to stand on our great scholars' shoulders and to advance their work, we can't gloss over the mistakes and then act like they're not there. We're not scrutinizing the work, we're only improving on the work. So if we're going to do the work, then we need to answer the research question by going through the scientific method. So when you formulate your hypothesis, you must move the needle. You can't stand on a hypothesis and have it be your conclusion. So I would ask any of the four brothers who were in this that we heard from that day when they were speaking on Sanetta's channel, have any of you did any research, any real research on the said subject? And if you have done any real research, can you demonstrate? Now, my goal here is to tell you that we're muting the noise until you can publish some work on the research question. As you can see, the Shemsu Heru research team did present it. Instead of addressing it on YouTube, they actually produced a 95-page contribution, which is basically for essays contributed to the community so that they can show you how science works. In one of the chapters, they talk about methodology. Then they talk about etymology. Then they talk about the meanings. Then they talk about the so many different aspects of what's going on there in the work. I suggest you get the book. If you haven't read the book and you're still talking, that's all you can do is talk. I mean, demonstration beats conversation. We've heard that time and time again. We have to stop the feel-good stuff. I seen Brother True Storian in the chat, and when he's going over history, you won't hear him stay stuck on the feel-good stuff. He takes the rough edges. He presents every side of the argument. He's going to be like, yeah, we did this, but this is what happened on the other side of that. There was a smooth side and there was a rough side. So when we just stop at the smooth side, that lets me know that we're not doing the real work because we were afraid to ruffle it up a little bit. So some of us get mad, defensive, and in our feelings when we start to correct some misinformation from our elders and our ancestors whose work we respect. Does not mean that we're promoting a different agenda. It only means we're only trying to right or wrong, whether small or big, out of their work. Just like the other topics that we'll have to address, that we will address in the future, dealing with other said subjects. You must show respect where respect is due. Diop told us to not assume. Diop told us to not take him at his word. Diop told us that he wanted us to take on the responsibility of making sure things are right. Now, Diop said if he stated what he stated, then we need to verify what Diop stated. Now, how can we do that? By testing his hypothesis or addressing the research question that Asar presented, that he's been researching for I don't care how long, 20 years or whatever, how long he's been in doing it. Wujawu and Sanjeti, another 10. Extensive work is done on the place name. Kemet is a place name. If it is not a place name, demonstration beats conversation and linguistics stand out. So for all the other people running around, bumping their gums on YouTube, showing this, showing that, acting this, acting that, arguing this, arguing that, you're not making any point. You have not proved anything. You continue to make other arguments in areas that doesn't even require argument because you misconstrue so much information. We can't keep going back and forth with ignorance. If you're serious about scholarship, you do what scholars do. Write your book, write your essays, write your journals, write your articles, print them, press them, release them, put them out to the public to be purchased. We can scrutinize. We can be our own. As soon as you drop your work, I'm buying it. I'm buying it because I'm gonna read it. As a matter of fact, hold on, let me get real gully with it. I was at ASCAC. I saw the whole conference. I heard everything Dr. Beatty stated. I heard everything that Reggie presented. I have copies of Reggie's presentation. I rode around with Reggie in the back of Garfield's Range Rover for a few hours. We talked. We addressed some of the points that he had on there. I got the ASCAC folder and everything. I got Reggie's Black Bull argument, his whole new position that he didn't have before, that he was given by others. That Mario Beatty, well, excuse me, Dr. Beatty says that he stands with Reggie on it. Okay, so you stand with it. You'll fall with it. It's that simple. We have to update our information. If we appealing to authority, why nobody listening to Diop? That's my thing. If we're appealing to authority, so here's Reggie's work right here. Boom. Put it in here. So when Reggie presented his argument, you may have heard it live on whatever channel you may have heard it on, but you didn't see it. You didn't see it for what it was. Brother Reggie, first tries to attack, and this is what Asar was saying about methodology. When in a scholastic setting, scholars will attack your bibliography, okay, your methodology and your bibliography. Asar said that. He said that's the first thing they want to try to do. So Reggie's first argument was try, and I think one of his understudies was to try to attack one of the examples that Asar was using for historical historical linguistic method, where in one of his examples he uses Sumerian to argue a correlation between languages, right? So that's the first thing Reggie tried to do as he attacks Asar, and he says this in case Asar still maintains that Kendura is cognate of Kemet, see below, and then he gives an example. Now he's stuck there on this particular text. That's part of Reggie's presentation. In presentation 2, he argues about the let me give you the source. He argues a web link that he posts here from basically a pyramid text online dealing with the passage of the King Ketty's instructions to his hire, Merikare, and he deals with that, which is basically talking about the Black Bull, the sacred Black Bull, and he went on the sacred Black Bull rant for about 15 minutes. And then he says the sacred Black Bull model destroys the riparian land, which was presented by Asar. Now, we're dealing with the topic of the discussion. What is the meaning and etymology of the place name Kemet in ancient Egyptian language? Black Bull doesn't answer the question. Deals with a specific text that a lot of people are familiar with, so you move on from there. You look at the rest of Reggie's argument, and it's all stapled. It's about, what is this, front and back? It's 5 pages. This is Reggie argument in 5 pages. So he tried to use this cooler argument. Dr. Beatty, Dr. Beatty omitted his information and went straight to a conclusion in his presentation at ASCAC. What he did was he started with his conclusion because he didn't think that he would get around that. What did he do? He argued about Asar. He didn't demonstrate anything about the topic of conversation, the meaning of the place name Kemet. Now, beyond these two people whom I respect, there's been a lot of noise on YouTube. There's been some instigation between people who wasn't even a part of the discussion. One was supposed to be at ASCAC. He gave a real bad excuse, and it was his opportunity to present, and he failed miserably. So now he's just on here, YouTube, trying to be a sensation, providing his own critiques on everybody's videos about something. And then now he wants to argue with someone who just created a dictionary, basically to look up some stuff. But that's a whole nother subject. Let me move forward in my conclusion because I didn't want to get stuck too long there. From the above examples, we can see how easily it can be for us to appeal to authority and argue from an illogical perspective. Through proper research and understanding on logical fallacies, we can begin to recognize errors in our arguments and become more critically sound by challenging one another to demonstrate and not lean on our laziness when it comes to daily lives. Remember, committing logical fallacies happen very easily. It is crucial that we begin to approach topics being able to show and prove, not just shuck and jive. This problem has festered far too long, and one can argue that based on the laziness, it has become a hindrance due to the age of information and how quickly we can Google something that substantiates our position. It is not a crime against our greatest minds to advance their work by correcting shortcomings of the past. We can now analyze previous errors and get things right. Failure to do so will continue to create circular arguments among us when we really need to be advancing forward. We should be studying to know, not to believe. By believing what we are reading, we are hindering ourselves from actually knowing. Some of our ancestors set the academic bar so high that we have fallen to this trap of such and such says, and not I've verified this to be true based on demonstration. Here are my sources. Let me get to this so we can get to something else. And that's the end of that presentation real quick. So I appreciate everybody that tuned in to that. I'm not going to draw y'all out. I will give yield the floor to Brother Kofi as he dropped this article in the chat. Everybody, please click on the link, review Kofi's.
Can I talk about it real quick, man?
Yeah. Let me get done, man. I'm about to give you the floor.
Dang. My bad. See, I don't do. All right.
So, you so dang on. I'm trying to big up the article.
Whatever.
Nah, man. But everybody, click on the link, review Kofi's article, show him some love. Like the show, share the show. I don't expect many people to like the show or share the show, but for people trying to instigate a further discussion, we ain't listening to that. We muting the noise until you can produce scholarly work and you're willing to put in the work to publish your work and your opinion. You can keep that to yourself. We ain't doing this for likes, loves, and shares. Our ancestors stood for more than likes, loves, shares, and views. They did real work. And in order to follow in their footsteps, we need to continue to stand on their shoulders by producing real work. YouTube ain't it. There you go, Kofi.
Oh, I speak. Permission to speak. I guess so. I wanted to kind of share my website, but I'm on my phone, and for some odd reason, when Sean go live, he have errors, and I can't get in on my laptop. So the only way I can get in is on my phone. But just real quick. Um, I hope I seen a lot of people in the chat. I hope they were paying attention. I know they was talking about the game or whatever, but I hope they was paying attention to Sean's presentation, a lesson on logical fallacies and the common use in the conscious community. Um, his presentation go right well with my article I dropped. I dropped an article today called "Who is the Shimshu Haru?" And their first contribution together. In the article, and I'm live, son. Tell her I call her back in a minute. Um, in the article, I just break down who is the Shimshu Haru research team, how the Haru research team got formed. I talk about in the article, and I would like to share my art. And Sean, is it any way, man, that I can get in on my computer? Sean,
Yeah,
Sutek, can
yeah,
you research? Can you
you already in the hangout, Kofi. So you need to log
right?
into, you need
I
to
I
go to
I got out.
Google. I understand, but listen to what I'm saying, Kofi. You need to go to Google Hangouts when it come up on your laptop, and it's going to show you already on this show. Then you can click on the link that has the green camera on where you've been on the show and we're still live, and then you can come in through just pressing that.
Sean, I did that. I'm doing it now. I'm gonna tell you what it's showing, what it's doing. I'm gonna tell you what it's doing. I even jumped off of my what's the name while I was doing it. I'm going on now. It's telling me Kofi Paisai TV, Mossi Warrior Clan, and one other are in the video call. You are about to join the hangout. And it's saying, it's showing my face and it's saying, please wait. And I had it up here for a minute. It just kept saying, please wait, please wait. I'm not.
Sound like you're bad. It sound like internet connection, Cole. What's wrong with your internet connection?
It's raining, but I mean, you couldn't hear me.
Nah, I hear you. I'm just trying to make a point.
But I'm on my phone, Sean. I got my phone connected to my internet.
Okay, Kofi. Then you should be able to log in. Hold on.
Y'all bear with us just a second. I kind of want to.
Yeah, you should be able to log in because the joining by link thing is on. Hang up your cell phone, like drop off, and then try to come through the laptop.
All right, let me try that again. I've done it, but I'll try it again.
Come on, Kofi. We know you technically challenged. All right, while we waiting on brother Kofi to come back, let's just be fine. So subliminals or sneak dish, how should we label it? Nobody is throwing sneak dishes or subliminals, period. Um, there are people that are making noise that are irrelevant to the topic of this conversation. Until you can actually present scholarly work, why are we even entertaining that? Our ancestors fought for us to produce, to write, to publish, to challenge academia, to do things the right way. Why would we bend that to pay attention to noise that's irrelevant, and especially noise that's off topic? It's not even on topic. What should we? I mean, what do you mean? It's confusing. There you go, Kofi. It behooves me that people won't, they'll say Diop said, and then when we show you what Diop says, you don't take his advice. He told you to don't take his word at face value, to do the work, verify what he's saying. Don't just believe what he's saying. Are y'all not paying attention to
Am I
that?
on?
Yeah, Kofi, you on here.
All
So
right.
let me, yeah. So look at there. Look how it worked. So let me just for the record, I just want to say this again, and then Kofi, you get your website queued up, homie. Get
I'm
your
already ready.
all right, okay. So it says, I would like to see above all a greater number of researchers Afro Americans, young Americans, and even whites. Why not? Because it's the young who are the least prejudiced. As a consequence, they are the most capable of making tribe ideas which frighten the older generation. Also, I think that it will be necessary to put together Parliament scientific teams capable of doing in depth studies for sure. And that's what's important. He said scientific teams capable of doing in depth studies for sure. And that's what's important. He says, it bothers me when someone takes me on my word without developing a means of verifying what I say. He says, it bothers me when someone takes me on my word without developing a means of verifying what I say. We must form a scientific spirit capable of seeing even the weakness of our own proofs, of seeing the unfinished side of our work, and of committing ourselves to completing it. You understand? Therefore, we should then have a work which could honestly stand criticism, because what we've done would have been placed on a scientific plane. What you are doing is committing a logical fallacy because you did not do what Diop said. You appeal to authority rather than do the work. You took him at his word. He didn't want you to do that. So go ahead, Kofi. It's all you.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah. Let me share my screen. Um, I was trying to find that book too, man. That magazine actually. When you was reading it, I was gonna try to share it. His exact word, the exact words that you was reading. I may try to find it in a minute, but okay. Let me go. All right. Um, like I said, brother Annie Harret Sean Calfunny's presentation goes well with my article. And again, is it showing first?
To you.
All right. And again, the website for it, I put it in the link a few times. It is Kofi Pie Written Composition .word.com. It's a few other good presentations on there as well. But this in here again is the Who is the Shimshu Haru research team and their first contribution. Brother NRS Sean Calfunny talked about a while ago how uh those three brothers who formed the Shimshu Haru research team, and I need to change that too. While I'm thinking about, I'm gonna have to go back in here and edit it. Something in here, but I ain't finna do it on live. But I'll do it afterwards because I got Shimu Haru. Trying to hurry up and get through so I can publish it before Sean went right. But he's talking about putting things in writing. And brother Sean just mentioned muting the noise. And it's funny, I kind of put that, and I didn't put that in my actual words in my conclusion. But these guys are actually demonstrating. These guys are not just actually talking. There's a lot of talking. There's a lot of talking. There's a lot of talking going on in a so-called conscious community, social media community, where it's a lot of talking and it's not a lot of producing. It's a lot of appealing to authority and etc. So, brother Sean wrote an article. He wrote an article a few weeks ago on the subject surrounding the ASCAP conference and him going to the ASCAP conference. Here my article is about who is the Simshu Haru research team. So I posed the question, who is the Simshu Haru research team? I'm not gonna read this, y'all go through and read it, but I kind of just wanted to show it. I also want to show the artwork too, where it's three individuals who makes up the Simshu Haru research team. So I put three scribes and the book that they're produced behind this ongoing discussion. Does the word Kemet means black land or does it mean black people? I advise everyone to get this book. In my article, I actually talk about how all of this got started, which started in November 17, 2018.
a discussion with Netanyahu. Well, yes, you could say it was a discussion. It wasn't a debate. A discussion with Netanyahu and Assar, November the 17th. So I kind of break that down in the first of it. How it all got started in 2018 with the discussion, and the discussion lapped over into y'all. Go ahead. I'm gonna fix y'all something in a minute. Um, it lapsed over into the 2009 ASCAP conference. So I talk about the ASCAP conference where it was held at. And I talk about this book that was produced um for the ASCAP conference. I break down who is the individuals from the Shimshu Haru team. For those that may not know who the Shimshu Haru research team are, it is Sanjeti, Ankara, uh, Wujal Iri Ma'at, and Asa M. Akar. I give their qualifications in here. I think that was very important to give the qualifications in here and who makes up the group before I
Sorry,
go any
in
further.
there, Kofi.
I mean Asa M.
Thank
Hotel,
you.
man.
Thank you, Satel.
I mean, all you do is correct me, man. Asa M. Ka. I mean Asa M. Hotel. But they can see it. They can see it here. But anyway, it was important for me to get the qualifications. Then I go into it's 4 chapters in the book, and again, I highly recommend this book. Again, these brothers is not only talking about it, but they are actually demonstrating, and they have the tools and the methods to go along with um what they are talking about. So in chapter 1, methodology considering an establishment of the means of Kemet. So each chapter was written by one of the Shemshu Haru research team member. So I talk about in chapter 1. I'm not gonna go through it. You can go through and read it, but I'm just strolling through here. So I actually talk about the purpose behind chapter 1, and then after I talk about the purpose behind chapter 1, who wrote it, then I give you an excerpt from the book. Uh, and in chapter 1, I just give like in chapter 1 um his whole purpose of the book was he formulated like the different tools and the methods and used uh in historical linguistics. So he talks about comparative methods, comparing the methods in chapter 1. He talks about so many different things in chapter 1, but basically he talks about the tools that is utilized in historical linguistics. Chapter 2 is written by Wujal Iri Kemet as a toponym. I talk about his main purpose of chapter 2. Then Brother Sean talks about the different hypotheses. So I go into the different hypotheses, hypothesis 1 and hypothesis 2, one from uh, James P. Allen, and the other one from our great elder Sheikh Aunt to Diop. Uh, then I go into an excerpt from Saber Wujal's chapter, and then I give two examples in the book. I give a chart of an example because he talks about his main focus is he's talking about toponyms, he's talking about ethonyms, denomonyms, and determinatives in this chapter. So I gives an examples of what he gives where he talks about the toponyms, and I also gives an example in here the Egyptians toponyms. So we know toponyms are place, location, and not a group of people. Uh, so in chapter 3, I talk. Chapter 3 was also written by Asar Imkar. I go through chapter 3, which is the name contributions of the identifications of the Kim, which I states uh, in the article that this was my favorite chapter. Again, it's 4 chapters, but this chapter was my favorite chapter because it deals with the I6 Kim glyph, and it deals with the 0649 glyph, which is the Newick glyph. So he goes into a discussion, and he also goes into a discussion that has been going on since 1987 about these I6 and 049 glyphs, which he had Saim Kai has been discussing the 049 glyph. The 049 glyph is a determinative that represents city or nation. But in this, I'm not going to even go into it. But those, well, I just go to the I6 glyph. We know commonly known as the Chaco, the burnt Chaco. This is where one of the hypotheses come up, where this thing is also the gator tail, commonly known as the gator tail, or the Chaco, the burnt Chaco. So these are different hypotheses that came up through time, and it's still commonly known as the crocodile scale or the burnt coal. So I go into him going into different things from the pre-dynastic to the dynastic to the new dynastic, especially when he's examining the 049 glyph, which is the determinative that represents what's name. And his conclusion is it's water with two different canals inside of it. And he's explaining. He also gives example from other different uh, dynasty, as well as the Kim glyph, as he goes into the different discussions from different scholars on the I6 glyph. Is it the crocodile scale? Is it the burnt coal? Or is it a mound? You know, he says it's a mound with projecting shrubs at the end of it. So this is a great chapter. This is, like I said, I think this will be some of the others' favorite chapters as well. But this was my favorite chapter. I also give a chart of his, because he does cognition and correspondence, sound correspondence. So he's demonstrating. He's being scientific. So he's demonstrating these different things as he come up with these different hypotheses and why he's talking about these certain things. So, and in chapter 4, which is his last chapter, which is written by Sajedi Ra, chapter 4, the Ramach of Kemet primarily. So he talks about it here. He just talks about the Ramich, the omitting of the T, etc. And then he goes through different attestations or primaries. He goes through the different primaries or them actually writing and using the word Ramich, uh, in those different textual sources. So I put a chart up here, and the scene from the tomb of Ramesses. We talk about the table of nations, and you can see in between here the Ramich. They refer to themselves as the Ramich. So we see it in here. And then my conclusion. I got a long conclusion, but go through the conclusion, and I need to go through here and edit something again in here. But uh this is my article. Please check out the article. I think it's a nice write-up on the Simshu Haru research team and their first contribution, which was the text that they put out, the contribution debating the meaning of the place name of Kemet. So check it out. It's on my website. That's all I have, man. And again, and those I just asked that those I said in my conclusion. I just say for those, because it's still an ongoing discussion. The ongoing discussion is still going on after the discussion in 2008 and the discussion in 2009 at the ASCOT. You still have individuals are still going on, still ongoing discussion. I just ask those individuals to produce something and write, and those have opposing views to what the Shimshu Haru research team their position. Please put out something in regards to your views on it, and where somebody can read it, put some kind of write-up up where we can and demonstrate. The most important thing is to demonstrate. Please demonstrate. That's all I got, Sean. I just wanted to go through my little article real quick.
All right. So before I let Satepa or Satek go in, I just want to let everybody know, man, thank you for tuning in today. You didn't have to tune in. You could have been busy doing something else. Look, I don't know if Kofi got something next week. He may do, he may not. If he don't, look forward to the rise and fall of the American Negro Academy, as I'll do a follow-up presentation to an article that I wrote on the American Negro Academy. So I am going to do the presentation. It's already locked and sealed, summarized, and ready to present. I got it on the screen and could have did it today, but I opted out of that to actually deal with the noise, which I'm not going to do again. Kofi got an article out. I got an article out. There's published work out, a published book out, which was a small treatment to a bigger treatment that's coming later in the year. So look forward for a bigger full treatment on the argument. So you know, people are really doing scholastic work and following in the footsteps of their ancestors and doing what they asked us to do, and not just appealing to authority, but actually scrutinizing the work to verify that work, and then being able to demonstrate that work. So, shout out to Brooklyn if they do land KD and Kyrie. That still don't mean that Brooklyn's going to win a championship in 2 years, because I don't think the KD is going to be worth anything in 2021-22 season. But hey, you know, we got to leave the door open for brother Danny in the chat. Satep and Rob, Satep, y'all got anything, man? Floor yours. Satep, you on mute. You must be riding. He can't hear nothing then. So Satep and Rob, I can tell you right now, he rocking with the riparian zone.
I'm here, bro.
Okay,
I ain't got much to say. Though. I ain't got nothing to say for real. I came in kind of late, so no, I ain't got much. You go ahead, Sutek.
Nah, I really don't have too much to say. I know this ain't my line, but I will say that hopefully everybody get the point from this presentation because it is true in the college community. A lot of people use these fallacies as far as appealing to authority.
Sutek,
What's up?
man, your mic is horrible, but now I can hear you better. I don't know. You got like a couple things going on with your mic.
I jump out.
No. Don't jump out. You sounded good right there.
Okay, I was just saying, man, I don't really have too much to say because this ain't my lane as far as reading the language and Kemet and all that. But hopefully everybody get the point from this presentation because a lot of logical fallacies are used, especially in these uh, Afrocentric communities in this conscious community, so-called, as far as appealing to authority, hasty generalization, slippery slope, ad hominems. We just seen on the Brother Garfield show uh, logical fallacies live. You know, we seen the brother use ad hominem attacks, all type of stuff. So that's not gonna fly. Appealing to emotions, it doesn't work in scholarship. It don't belong there. It don't belong nowhere in research. So leave your emotions at the door. Anybody can say this person, this is right because so and so said so. But how did so and so get to that conclusion? Nobody ever asked that. So hopefully everybody get the point from this because this is well needed.
I appreciate that, brother. On that note, man, I don't know if Kofi Pasa TV going in tonight. You never know, you know what I'm saying? Because I got a little stash. I got some in the stash, possibly for Kofi Pasa TV. I don't know. I don't know. Kofi be tripping. You know what I'm saying? So if the show
No, you be tripping. You be tripping. Tell the folks you be tripping. You tripping.
nah,
You tripping.
Nah, you never know with Kofi Pasa TV. You might get a pop up. However, I really don't know because tonight Siobhan will be presenting. She will actually be singing at Centennial Park, which is part of a Black Unity um, uh, thing they got going on, and the song that she did with the brother Melvo, they're going to actually be presenting it or doing it today, and she a little nervous about it. I don't know why, but all she doing is just singing. So um, we'll see what's going on with that, man. I actually wrote the hook that she sings on that song. So yeah, y'all didn't know I was a creative genius like that. So um, we're going to, if that ain't in conflict with what we got going on, then I may be able to pop up Kofi and do something. But man, again, it's it's late in the afternoon. I'm gonna let everybody enjoy their peace, enjoy their Sunday. Free agency has kicked off for people who are really into the NBA. And stay tuned because Kawhi got a decision to make and some things to entertain. And I don't expect for Kawhi to sign anywhere today. For people who are worried about that. Um, yeah, yeah. Look, see Danny dropping the fun fact in the chat. A black man founded Bushwick, Brooklyn. Yeah, that's real. That's real. So I hope that people can, yeah, appeal to ridicule is real too. I hope that people will take the time out to kind of go and look up what logical fallacies are and how many different logical fallacies there are and how they can be easily committed when we are having these sets, these discussions online on social media and even in our work and by admitting it because a lot of our scholars in the 60s, the 70s, they were combating racism, white supremacy as early as the 20s and the 30s and even the 40s or whatever. It don't even matter. In every era, our ancestors have fought against racism, white supremacy. The thing about it is that we're in an era now where information is more available to us and we're able to get some things that we couldn't get before faster because of the internet. And we no longer have to use these feel good methods to approach scholarship because the rest of the world is advancing. They respect and understand who we are and our presence in the world and our great accomplishments. For those that continue to omit that, our achievements, we can quickly correct them by a simple Google search now, and then going behind that with written work by many of our ancestors who fought in that era. I think the problem comes down to us being able to, we're so busy scrutinizing beliefs and what everybody else is doing that we're not vetting the sources on the written material that we've been used to publish with. And it is a detriment to us and our children if we continue to keep committing these fallacies when we're dealing with our own said subjects. Now I don't care if we agree with 90% of the actual work and then it's 10% wrong. It's still 10% that we actually can advance by correcting it and still stand on the shoulders of our ancestors. So like I said, man, for people who make the most noise or who are continuing to make noise on the discussion on the meaning of the place named Kemet here in the Americas or abroad, produce your work, written work, produce your written work. Don't let YouTube be your end all be all means of this particular discussion because not everybody is paying attention to your YouTube channel. So produce your work, publish your work, put it out there. And let your peers, because we are your peers, let us review your work. We'll review your work. And where we see fault, we'll address it. Where we don't see fault, we'll accept it. And we will acknowledge that we don't have a disagreement there. Everybody agrees, if you are familiar with the Medu Neter, that the word Kim, K-M, means black. Nobody is arguing that. Please do not commit a straw man argument by thinking that somebody's arguing against a word meaning black. Most people don't even understand that the Remech, they didn't even see the world from a social perspective like we're arguing today. And that's another problem. That's why we have a lot of work that we're going through that we continue to get our hands on that show us things that the commoner that's not even related to the said subject doesn't have in their possession. So again, man, thank y'all for tuning in. We're going to end the show right there. Again, if you missed it, run it back. It's not too long, and we'll deal with it from that perspective. Kawhi is not staying with Toronto. He don't think that he can repeat there, and neither is he going to the LA Clippers because they stink. Y'all enjoy. Black African power. Peace.